What is the market telling me this week? Welcome to the Nick Rutherford Report, and the market is either going to take advantage of you or you are going to take advantage of the market. So hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, leave me a comment, share this with someone who would get a lot out of it, because this is the place to be for the financial news that matters for your net worth. Remember, everyone loses money sometimes, but what separates the best investors from everyone else is when they lose small, and when they win big. Let's get to it. This has been a wild 2 weeks, and I'm excited now because, well, stocks are up, so I can feel great, I can feel excited, and I don't feel worried because the stock market is always trying to take advantage of you by pressing on your emotions so that you feel bad and you worry and you panic and you do the exact wrong thing at the wrong time. So one technique that I've learned over the last few years that I love to use is using my set point, setting my set point. What do I mean by this? Well, I look at the money that I invested a few years ago and I use that as my high watermark. So right now I'm using my high watermark as the low from 2022 or the high from 2021, 22. It's pretty close for me because I got out of the market in 2022 and I went down way less than the market. So my high and low there are within 14% of themselves. And as long as I'm way comfortably above that, I'm feeling great. This allows me to not worry so much when things go down. So as a thought experiment, I would invite you to set your set point of your high watermark, not today or yesterday, but from a few years ago, and then every few years, maybe you move it up. This allows you to stay in emotional control and not worry about the volatility in the market. Now, I'm investing for the next few years, not the next few days. So this helps me maintain calm and cool and collected when things are going completely crazy. So there's not been a ton of news this week, but I want to look at the QQQ because this is tech. And I did buy some tech last week. And if you get on my newsletter, I'll tell you what I bought, but I'm not going to publish it here. And the purpose of this is whenever I say I buy something, I really want to explain why. I don't want to just throw out a ticker because understanding why, not that I'm endorsing buying anything, but understanding why is the most important. Because then you can understand why something's a good investment, why something's a bad investment. So if you want to know how I think, it's on my newsletter. But the reason I'm bringing this up is investing in QQQ, or not investing in it, but just I want to look at QQQ because it's doing a dramatic rise. So it looks like the yen carry trade, that was some sort of technical thing. And I explained that in the other video. And where people are borrowing in the yen and leveraging it into the US dollar and buying more stocks. Now, I'm not going to make some long-winded explanation about it because I see lots of people on the internet making long-winded explanations about it. And frankly, I wonder if they really know or they're just making long-winded explanations because everyone else is. Because there's no way for me to see inside every hedge fund and know exactly what or if they're doing that and how much they're doing it. And when you see articles like Goldman Sachs telling us, well, there's like 10% more to go from this carry trade, like, how do they really know? And aren't they just trying to manipulate me to take the other side of the trade? So it's not something that I really pay attention to. I pay attention to the market in the data, so the market can tell me what to do. And it looks to me like this is either unwinding or it's the biggest dead cat bounce ever in the recent few years. Maybe not ever. What's my point? Well, I've been mostly long since 2022, and so I didn't have to make much of a decision. The decision that I made to add a little more was inconsequential to my overall portfolio. But I feel very happy when things are going up, and I feel really bad when they're going down, and then I try to mitigate that. What's my point here? Well, things are up. Looks like we're bouncing back, and there's some interesting pieces of data that I want to talk about that I think are important. The CPI came out, and here we are with the CPI coming in at 2.9, and the headline always is consumer prices rose 0.2%, so it sounds really low. And of course, it's really low compared to last time. But this is a huge, huge problem year on year, because if you're not making investments that are exceeding the rate of CPI, and I love how here they say all items less food and energy, even though my predominant expense is the energy that I use to drive around and the food that I use to eat, so it's a little silly. My point here is that I always need to attempt to make investments that are going higher than the CPI on a 1, 2, 5 year time frame. Otherwise, I'm actually losing money, because if my house doubles but I need to buy another house, and if my investments aren't growing faster than that, even if my cash pile looks bigger, it's actually smaller. So my point in there is I'm always watching this, because this is really why I got into investing, because I want to actually make money, just not think that I'm making money when I'm not really making money. Now, here's a good graph to look at here. You can see that here the CPI seems to have hit a floor here in the last year, somewhere in the 3 range. So if the CPI continues to have this floor, it's going to cause a shift over the next few years, because if you just look on the graph here, from 2008 up until, let's say, March of 2021, whatever, that whole 9-year basis. And I say it that way because I'm just trying to paint broad strokes here. I think people get way too into the details for it to really matter. And what I'm trying to say through that is that over the last 10 years, inflation has been really low, and now it seems like it potentially could be setting at a higher rate. Is this going to be from oil being higher? Is this going to be from more government spending? Is this going to be from deglobalization? Is this going to be from the fact that people in companies are now changing their supply routes because of what happened during the plague? I don't have the answers to that, but I can see that this is a trend, and this is a trend that we need to be aware of, because it's going to really hurt my bottom line if I'm not paying attention to it and investing things that are staying ahead of this trend. Because even if it looks like my net worth is going up, if it's not going up higher than this trend over 5 or 10 years, I could actually be losing money. So it's just something that I'm watching in the market, and something that I'm bringing up because it was a piece of data that came out. So it's good news that it's not way higher than it could possibly be, but it's also bad news that it's pretty sticky at this rate. So it's something that I'm watching, and it's something that I would encourage everyone to compare their performance in a way that is comparing it to the real inflation rate, because I believe they just expand the money supply off the top of my head 7% a year over year after year after year after year, if you look at it in M2. So if your investments aren't growing at a faster rate than that, then it's a big problem. And for example, if the S&P 500 is averaging 9.82% or whatever it's averaging over the years historically, but then inflation is 7, well, your real return is 2.8%. So if you're happy with that, great. But just remember, your real return is what matters for building your wealth, taking care of you, and taking care of your family afterwards, because the after inflation number is the real number. So I'm just pointing that out as a piece of data, but I want to get into some really interesting things about what the market is telling me, and I think you're going to love this. What happens next, and what am I doing about it? Well, this is some data that the market is telling me. Now, you may not know, TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, they print their monthly net revenue. And if you look at their monthly net revenue, it's up a lot. It's up 44.7%. This is up from, I'm not sure, this is in the millions of new Taiwanese dollars, whatever that means, relative to whatever. That's not my point. My point is that it was at 207. Now it's at 256. So that's a big jump. In fact, if you go to their website and you start clicking around, you're looking at the back things, they have beat, this is the highest beat ever. So what does that mean? To me, that means people are buying more chips than ever because they're making all the best, most advanced chips. So if they're beating on chips, well, guess what? This crazy news headlines of the AI revolution being over, they're so off sides, or they're so trying to manipulate you, it's not even funny. This is why my prediction, and again, this is a prediction that I could be completely wrong, is NVIDIA is going to go up. And they're going to have a very good earnings. Are they going to beat? Are they going to lose a little? I don't know, but they're certainly probably not going to be way down. And I'm just guessing completely here based on the fact that, well, it looks like Taiwan Semiconductor has made more chips than ever. So this crazy narrative that Wall Street has been printing over the last few weeks just really fits into my theme that Wall Street is just trying to take advantage of you. And everyone, like I just need to take advantage of the market. And that's going to happen by looking at the data and having the market tell me what to do. So the market is telling me that the chips are selling like crazy. They're selling more than ever. So this is exciting to me. The trend is intact. I'm not too worried. I think we're going to need more chips, not less chips in the future. That's how I look at it. Because my principle is just let's make it stupidly simple. Because the simple fact is they're selling more chips. Are they going to sell more chips or less chips in the next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Right now, I think they're going to sell a lot more chips. So that's my base case. Let's look at the market here. The market looks like it's maintaining its uptrend. So just to zoom in, oops, we've had a dysfunction here. All right, we've had a complete breakdown. All right, it seems like I've lost internet, so I don't want to screw up the video. But you could see that it was higher than ever. So let me just keep going through here because I don't want to have to redo this video. So NVIDIA is up. It's bouncing. This is looking tremendously good. Either that or it's the biggest dead cat bounce in a while. So we're going to find out real soon. If this gets to new all-time highs and breaks out, I'm going to breathe a big sigh of relief. But the market right now is telling me, yes, be very cautious, but it looks to me like this was some sort of technical flows thing that caused everyone to freak out, and then they invented narratives of why it's happening, like AI being over. Bitcoin, trending sideways. All the models that I look at, I think, look good from a perspective of Bitcoin usually halves. It gets scarcer because the miners are not mining as much, and then it goes way up. And that just happened this year. So I'm expecting it probably to go higher, even though everyone expects this is it. So we'll really see. But I like Bitcoin for the next 5-10 years because as long as the network works and people like it and the supply goes down and down, the price should go up and up. That's just my thesis on that, but I'm just looking at all of this and the market is telling me, well, it looks like we're in a rebound. Gold is up. It looks like it's breaking to all-time highs. So this is signaling to me that there's either some geopolitical stuff coming or people are going to be concerned about the dollar or the dollar is going to go down or inflation's going to come back. I don't really need to know because everything is kind of a guess. And the market is telling me the stuff that I just mentioned there. And this is why I have a small position, a percentage of my portfolio in gold as just a diversification. Because to me, investing, this is a principle of mine, it comes down to looking at everything, looking at the probabilities, and placing different bets, and not being completely 100% one sides on something, because I never know what's going to happen. All I can do is read the data and make sure that I don't make a move that could take me out. Because over the years, if you get taken out, you're done. But if you can survive, it really is a game of survival before growth. So to wrap this up, I think this is important. What happens next? Okay, employment gets worse and the market grinds lower because we haven't got to all-time new highs yet and the new data hasn't come in for employment. We're going to have to wait till next month. That could happen. And it could reverse itself. Or fiscal propels the market higher. So fiscal is the government spending, which we're breaking government spending records constantly. I think we hit a new record or something. Just going off the top of my head, you'd have to look it up. If it's not the new record, it's near the new record. And I don't need to know specifically. All I need to know is it's outrageously high. So if they're spending more and more money, that money's going to go into the economy. It's going to go into people's pockets. It's going to go into corporations' pockets. And one person's spending is another person's income, and that feeds the corporate income, and that feeds the EPS, the earnings per share. And the whole thing is a synergistic, almost Ponzi scheme that has to keep going to maintain. I mean, it's a Ponzi scheme, but it's not. But it is, which at least that's how I think of it. But as long as the money supply is expanding and more money is coming in, then this virtuous cycle continues. I got to speak correctly there, higher and higher. So these are the two scenarios. Right now, the market isn't telling me anything specific except things look to be getting better and blowing over. Now, of course, come Monday next week, things could change and I could change my mind. But that's where I'm at this week, and I hope you got something out of it. And to me, that information from Taiwan Semiconductor really tells the whole story. People are buying more and more chips. That is a segment of the economy that is growing and growing. And I want to be invested in things that are growing. And if that continues to grow, the trend is on and continuing to expand. So hopefully I'll make a lot more money, and I hope that you'll make a lot more money. So hit that like button. Leave me a comment about what you're thinking. Leave me a comment with just the word money if you like money, just to help spread this to people. Subscribe, share this with someone. Until then, I'll talk to you next week. How am I using this information to protect and grow my wealth? Go to highreturnlowrisk.com.